Welcome into NBA Now, live here on Chat Sports. I am your host, Chase Sr. Today's show presented by our friends at Magic Spoon. You go to magicspoon.com/chat, you get $5 off your purchase, and I'm telling you, this cereal, it will rock your taste buds. We'll tell you more about Magic Spoon and all of the great flavors that they have to offer coming up. That link is in the description as well as the comment section of this video. It's cereal that tastes like the cereal that we ate when we were kids, but it's actually healthy for you, unlike all of those crappy traditional brands out there. Let's dive into the latest NBA news and rumors, and we kick off today's show with Cade Cunningham. It's long been said that Cade Cunningham is considered to be the top prospect in the 2021 NBA draft class, which is going to be held the final Thursday of this month. Now, the Detroit Pistons currently hold the number one pick, but could another player sneak into that spot and be selected number one overall? According to ESPN's Jonathan Givony, he went as far as to say Cade Cunningham, long considered to be the lock at number one, no longer the lock. He had this to say in a recent report. Cunningham is not any kind of lock at number one from everything that I've gathered. Detroit is continuing to conduct due diligence on a group that also includes Jalen Green and especially Evan Mobley, while also exploring several trade opportunities that have emerged. Teams including Cleveland, Houston, New Orleans, Oklahoma City are among those making overtures to evaluate what it would take to move up to the number one slot, sources say. But those talks are at an early stage, and any trade is unlikely to be consummated until much closer to the draft, if at all. Draft rumors, draft hype, leading up to the NBA draft, we are all here for it. And coming up, if you're watching our live show, we're going to bring you our latest NBA mock draft. But I want you to do this. Predict it for us. Will Cade Cunningham go number one overall? Get your votes in the comment section down below. Type 1 for yes or type 2 for no. Let's get to the latest Ben Simmons rumors. So it's known by now that Ben Simmons had an absolutely disastrous second-round showing against the Atlanta Hawks. That image of him passing up that dunk late in the fourth quarter of Game 7 is going to live on forever and just haunt Philadelphia 76ers fans. And it's crazy to think how far Simmons' value has plummeted on the trade market. Going into the NBA trade deadline, he was involved in trade discussions that would have landed the 76ers James Harden. But at this point, given how poorly Simmons played in that second round, what can he get back in a trade right now? His value, in my opinion, a little bit higher than what people are saying right now. Chris Mannix of Sports Illustrated agrees with me, and he said this on a recent Bill Simmons podcast. I hear from executives all the time that are loving this Ben Simmons trade value has cratered conversation because they hope that Philadelphia believes that. I think his trade value is actually higher than what it's being publicly portrayed, but you're going to continue to hear a lot of the negativity around Ben Simmons. In other words, I think people value him pretty highly across the league, because I do think there's a belief that someone's going to figure the shooting thing out. And I think Ben Simmons is a corner three away from being a superstar player. And he's already on the precipice of becoming that because he's an all-NBA defender. He can guard 1 through 5. His vision in the open court is outstanding. He really just needs at least an elbow jumper, maybe even a corner three, and this dude can be a legitimate player. And this time of the year, there's so much speculation, so much conjecture of agents trying to drive the trade value down so that they can get Ben Simmons at a really good affordable price. We'll see what happens. Only time will tell. So which team will be the owner of Ben Simmons in 2021-2022? Predict this one for us as well. Type 76 if you think he's going to be on the 76ers next season, or type O for he's going to be on another team. Story time here on NBA Now. So this is me back in 2015 when I graduated Temple University. I was like 215 pounds, and late at night after I got done all of my schoolwork and all of my broadcasting duties, I was really hungry. So didn't have much of a college budget because I was broke, so I'd sit home and crush some bowls of cereal and watch sports. Well, you see what happens when you eat crappy cereal late at night? You get up to 215 pounds, or you get really fat. That is what happened to me. But luckily, I've slimmed down over the last several years because I've started to take nutrition a lot more seriously, and I've reintroduced cereal to my diet. Now you look at me now. I'm winning awards, I'm sculpted, I'm cut, and I'm back in shape. All thanks to our friends at Magic Spoon, the presenting sponsor of today's show. It's high in protein, 13 grams of protein per serving, 4 grams of net carbs, 0 grams of sugar. Every bowl that you take down, it's under 200 calories. It's also keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, wheat-free, naturally flavored, totally delicious. And the bevy of flavors that Magic Spoon has to offer, they are delicious. You want to see the flavors that I'm talking about? You go to magicspoon.com/chat. That link will get you $5 off your next purchase. You can even put together a variety pack to try out these different flavors. And I'm telling you, if you do that, you will not go wrong thanks to our friends at Magic Spoon. They're a big supporter of what we do, and I encourage you to try it. Is Kevin Love going to go to Golden State? This has been a rumor that's been simmering not just this offseason, but over the last couple of years. San Francisco Chronicle put out an article, and they said this: the Warriors have been flirting with the idea of adding Kevin Love for years. This goes back like 4 or 5 years. And the courting this offseason for Kevin Love in Golden State might turn into a full-court press. And according to reports, Kevin Love has a really astronomically high contract, but he might look to negotiate a buyout with the Cleveland Cavaliers, and maybe he could sign with the Golden State Warriors at the veterans minimum because they don't have a lot of cash to spend. Here's what the San Francisco Chronicle had to say about Love. His skill set, fit so perfectly with what the Warriors wanted to do. They chased him as a possible trade acquisition in the summer of 2014, but when consultant Jerry West threatened to quit over Klay Thompson's inclusion in the deal, the trade was dead. Good move by Jerry West, because it turned out to be a brilliant move by the Warriors, because from 2015 to 2019, they went to the NBA Finals every single year and won 3 rings. A big reason for that, Klay Thompson, and him not being in that deal. Let's look further into Kevin Love. He's on his way to potentially being a Hall of Famer. You're looking at a guy who's a 5-time All-Star. His career averages 18 points per game to go along with 9 rebounds, so he's really been an all-around stat-stuffing machine. But the injuries are starting to pile up, and with him getting longer in the tooth, how long can he play at a solid level, if not maybe an elite level, because he's missed 102 games over the last 3 years. And this past year in Cleveland, it was a weird year for Love. You look at him as a good culture fit, but there were some shots of him leaving the team huddle, sitting away from the team huddle. He wanted nothing to do with Cleveland, and frankly, that's probably how a lot of people around America feel. They don't want anything to do with Cleveland. San Francisco Chronicle continued by saying this about Love. Just in November of this past year in 2020, it was reported that Golden State eventually balked at a 3-team deal that would have landed Kevin Love. He said he's willing to pivot, but he's not entirely sure that his days of 35 minutes and 20 to 25 touches are in the rear view of his career. This is what Love had to say about questions about his durability. He still thinks he can be a really elite player. I can still be the player that I was before I had a couple of tough injuries. This is the best I've felt in a long time. People always say this, my gosh. I feel like I have a lot more to prove, but I feel that way coming into every season. Obviously, it's been unlucky and unfortunate. Injuries happen. This is what I want to say about any good player when they're in a disastrous situation, especially with a team that has no hope. You got to get him out of that situation. And for Kevin Love, I want to see him out of Cleveland. Put up so many amazing numbers with the Timberwolves. He goes to Cleveland. He wins a ring with LeBron James coming back from 3-1 in that masterful finals performance. He guarded Steph Curry with that potential game-tying or game-winning 3. You got to get Kevin Love out of Cleveland, especially considering that he only has a few good years left, and him playing in that bunker of a city, a bunker of a franchise, it's just not good. I'd love to see him on Golden State. What do you think, though? Should the Warriors pursue Kevin Love either in free agency or maybe it's a sign and trade? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Be sure to get your votes in the comment section down below. I think the Warriors, even though they brought back Kevon Looney, they still have James Wiseman on the roster. They could use a floor spacer in the front court like Kevin Love. I'd definitely be all for it. Hey, Warriors fans, make sure you're subscribed to Warriors Today and help get us to 19,000 subscribers. We're getting closer and closer to hitting that mark. Let this be your Warriors offseason go-to spot for everything going on with the Dubs. Free agency, trade latest. We bring you the latest Warriors news and rumors. We continue to trot out NBA draft prospect profiles leading into July's NBA draft. And for Hoops fans out there, if you haven't subscribed to Chat Sports, what are you doing? We are almost at 250,000 subscribers as we continue to grow like crazy as a company. Here at Chat Sports, we cover the NBA as a whole. We also bring you the latest NBA free agency news and rumors, and we do live shows like this one. So go to youtube.com/chatsportstv and help get Chat Sports to 250,000 subscribers. Is it inevitable that Kelly Oubre Jr. is going to leave the Warriors and sign elsewhere in NBA free agency? Looks as though, with the comments that he made to Chris Haynes on a recent podcast, that is going to be the case. The Warriors, Joe Lacob, Bob Myers, kind of panicked in trading for Kelly Oubre after Klay Thompson has torn his Achilles, leading into last year. And Oubre's experience with Golden State, it was really up and down throughout 2020 and 2021. His playing time fluctuated. His numbers were up and down. Toward the end of his tenure with the Warriors this past year, he was coming off the bench, and he told Chris Haynes, I wasn't about that life. I didn't enjoy that experience at all. In fact, he was pretty salty about it. And I think these quotes point to Kelly Oubre wanting to go elsewhere and sign with another team in NBA free agency. Here's what he had to say to Haynes, when Haynes asked him about his role with the Warriors. I don't even want to speak and elaborate on much on that situation about coming off the bench, but all I'll tell you is that it put a fire in my heart. It added more fuel to the fire. Being 25 years old, the way that my career has been shaping out, the growth that I've shown in my career to go from the 15th pick to continuously have my numbers grow each and every year, to have a year where my opportunity is lessened, and then as the year goes on, I'm put into this category of trying to shape out the future of the organization when I haven't been given a fair opportunity to show what I can do on a large scale. Yeah, it is unfair. I'll tell you what, Warriors fans, those quotes, if you're looking for Oubre to come back, doesn't seem to bode well for him returning. Those quotes seem like they're coming from a guy who is gone. He's outie. Also, is Kelly Oubre worth it? If he's coming off the bench because Klay Thompson, let's hope that he comes back off that Achilles and ACL injury that he suffered in consecutive seasons, is Kelly Oubre worth $15 to $20 million annually as a role player? Hell no. Why is that? Because you have Jordan Poole, who is one of the best comeback stories in the NBA last year, not just with the Warriors, and his salary much more doable than a guy like Oubre, who on the open market realistically probably will demand anywhere between 15 and 20 mil because he's put up big numbers throughout his young career so far. There's still some upside and untapped potential, and Jordan Poole this year is going to make a little more than $2 million. Let him be your go-to scoring option off the bench, not a guy like Kelly Oubre, who you'd have to pay $15 to $20 million to. Also, there's this. Warriors have a lot of offseason questions with that roster. Use that money elsewhere to fill some other needs because you don't really need Oubre on this team with Klay Thompson coming back. So do you think Oubre is gone? Is he outie from the Bay? Type G in the comment section for you think he's gone. Type B for you think he's going to come back. I think it's inevitable that Kelly Oubre is going to leave Golden State. Money, role, playing time, frustration. Hey, that's four things that point to Kelly Oubre going elsewhere in NBA free agency. Make sure you subscribe to Chat Sports as we get closer and closer to 250,000 subscribers. You can either hit that red subscribe button down below or go to youtube.com/chatsportstv. If you're new to us here, we're a very interactive YouTube channel. We like to have fun. We hit you with the hard-hitting analysis as well. We do live shows multiple times a week, especially for the hoop fans out there. So once again, hit that red subscribe button down below and help get us to 250,000 subscribers. Welcome into the Lakers Report by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. Is Andre Drummond really frustrated with Frank Vogel? And is he going to lead the Lakers and sign elsewhere in NBA free agency? He took to Instagram to kind of bash Frank Vogel a little bit, answering a comment from some random Instagram user. Now, Drummond in his experience with the Lakers after signing with LA, after agreeing to that buyout with the Cavaliers, where he was getting paid around $28 million a year, which is actually pretty hard to fathom, started every game. And he averaged only 25.5 minutes per night, which probably starts some of that frustration with Drummond's role in LA. And he voiced those frustrations about Frank Vogel and his role on Instagram. So somebody commented on one of his posts and said, I wish you could only dominate the paint like Brook Lopez or DeAndre Ayton, like for real. Andre Drummond responded to that by saying, tell y'all coach to play me more, and I could. Wow. I mean, Oubre Drummond has to come to the realization that he's really not that good of a player. And if any team in NBA free agency is going to offer him $27, $28 million like he was making with the Cavs, they are bogus. They are out of control. That is not a wise way to spend your money. Now, when you look at his numbers with the Cleveland Cavaliers, they were pretty solid. But you have to consider and think about this. The Cavaliers were a garbage team. Oubre Drummond was getting a lot more playing time. Both of those things, the complete opposite in LA. But his Cleveland numbers, pretty good. 17.5 points per game, almost 13 rebounds. He was giving you more than a block per night. The field goal percentage for a guy who's around 7 feet at 49%, I think it could be better. And then you transition to his numbers with the Lakers, and everything went down. Again, better supporting cast, even though LeBron and AD were out for a while, but still that team much better, even without LeBron and AD, than the Cavs were. And his minutes were cut down dramatically, only 24.5 minutes per game, somewhere in that window. And because of that, his numbers suffered. 11.9 points per game, 10 rebounds. So it was still a double-double. He still gave you a block per night, and his field goal percentage actually went up. I thought Frank Vogel actually used him in a decent amount of ways. He was a decent passer out of the post. He actually displayed much better vision than I thought. He gives you really good energy. He's an okay defensive player when he can stay in the paint, but he gets exposed when he has to play against other athletic bigs and extend his defensive prowess to the three-point arc. At the end of the day, I thought Oubre Drummond was just okay. My expectations for him were a lot higher than what he actually produced. That toe injury, he lost his big right toenail his first game. I think that might have lingered. But Frank Vogel wanted to go with Gasol. He wanted to go with Montrezl Harrell in spots. Drummond didn't even play in Game 6 of that first-round series against the Suns because, going back to my point about his defensive ability or lack thereof, he was kind of a liability out there. And I think Oubre Drummond is just an outdated big. You go back to 2005 and you put Oubre Drummond in that 2005 draft class, or even in the NBA at that time, he's really good. He's a guy who can dominate the low block. He's physical. He can block shots. He's very active. He's a good rebounder. I think he's a better passer than what people give him credit for, as I mentioned. But nowadays, he can't shoot. He's a bad free throw shooter, so you can't have him on the floor late in games. Otherwise, teams will go hack a Drummond on you, and he'll miss all of his free throws. And I just think he's an outdated big who's not really worth all that much money. And I think that's why Frank Vogel, a guy who historically really, really likes bigs, didn't end up playing Oubre Drummond. So how much is Oubre going to get paid? Something fascinating to monitor on the NBA free agent market. We know that teams get desperate, especially with sometimes overpaying for players, because of past production. I think that production, the best of it, is in the past for Oubre Drummond. So Laker Nation, speak up, sound off in the comment section. What do you think? Should the Lakers re-sign Drummond? Type S for sign, type P for pass. Be sure to get those votes in the comment section down below.